Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to dive deep into one of history's absolute greatest and literally chilling unsolved mysteries. Imagine a scene straight out of a terrifying nightmare, set against the backdrop of an endless, freezing wilderness. It's a story that has baffled investigators for over 60 years, and it's easy to see why. Okay, let's jump right in. We really need to set the stage immediately with the grim reality of this event. So, it's February of 1959, and 9 hikers walk into the frozen rural mountains of Russia. And you have to understand, these weren't beginners. We're talking about a highly capable, incredibly experienced team. Yet, they vanished into the endless snow, and not a single one of them returned alive. The wilderness just swallowed them whole. But it's not just the fact that they perished that makes this case so infamous. It's exactly how they perished. I want to pose this chilling question directly to you right off the bat, because honestly, it's the hook that captures everyone who looks at this case. Why on earth would trained, expert hikers run out barefoot into the freezing night? It is the impossible contradiction at the very heart of the crime scene. When rescuers finally found their camp, they discovered the tent had been ripped open, but from the inside. They actually tore their own shelter apart to escape something. To put that into perspective, we are talking about temperatures that dropped below -30 degrees Celsius. That is an instantly lethal environment if you don't have proper gear. Fleeing your only source of shelter into that kind of cold without boots or coats, that's not just a bad decision, that is an act of sheer absolute desperation. Something drove them out into that dark, freezing night. Part 1, the expedition begins. Let's step back from the horror for just a second and look at who these people were before disaster struck. Led by Igor Dyatlov, this team is made up of young university students and hardcore outdoor adventurers. They definitely weren't amateurs making rookie mistakes. They had planned a grueling skiing expedition through the northern Urals. And yeah, the weather was harsh, but it was nothing they hadn't handled before. Early on, they were happy. They were laughing, taking photos, writing in their journals, and just pushing deeper into the snow. It's heartbreaking because none of them could have possibly known those photos would become their final memories. Following their timeline, the expedition started off making really good progress in weather that was harsh but totally familiar to them. By the evening of February 1st, they set up their camp on the side of this incredibly lonely mountain. The sources note that strong winds were just covering absolutely everything in snow. They pitch their tent, get ready for the night, and outside those canvas walls, there are no villages, no lights, just silence and an endless white wilderness. And then days pass. The hikers go missing with no return. Part 2, the ripped tent. So as days turn into a week, their families understandably get incredibly worried. After grueling days of searching through the snow, rescue teams finally find the tent. Inside, they find boots, warm clothes, food, literally all the vital gear you need to survive just left behind. But outside, the tent has been sliced open from the inside, and there are barefoot footprints leading away into the snow. The contrast here is just staggering. On one side, perfect preparation. On the other, proof that they desperately slashed their way out to flee in total panic. Part 3. The first bodies. The search party follows those barefoot footprints down the mountain toward a large cedar tree, and they make a horrifying discovery. 2 of the hikers were found in that freezing weather wearing barely any clothing. But here was a really key detail. Nearby, there were the remains of a small fire. These 2 hikers clearly tried to survive. They fought against the deadly cold by somehow managing to build a fire with their bare hands in the pitch dark. They were desperately trying to stay alive. But survive what, exactly? The silent mountain gave the rescue team absolutely zero clues as to what they were fighting against. Part 4. Inexplicable injuries. Now, weeks later, as the deep mountain snow finally melted, the rest of the bodies were discovered. And this is exactly where the evidence goes from tragic to completely bizarre. It reads like an impossible autopsy report. The hikers sustained severe, massive injuries, fractured skulls, broken ribs, just devastating internal trauma. But here's the mystery. There were almost zero external wounds. It's like they were subjected to massive, crushing pressure, but without any of the cuts or bruising you'd expect from a fall or an animal attack. Officials totally struggle to explain it, and as you can imagine, this inexplicable evidence caused rumors to just spread like wildfire. Part 5. Competing theories. So, how in the world do 9 experts abandon their gear, freeze to death, yet sustain massive internal injuries? This massive vacuum of logic has led to countless theories over the decades. First up, you have natural explanations. Some think a sudden snow slab or a localized avalanche forced the group to slash the tent and run. Others suggest powerful, really unique winds flowing over the mountain created terrifying natural sounds that just induced sheer panic. Then there are the human-caused theories, people imagining secret military experiments gone wrong in the isolated wilderness. And finally, there are those who believe something entirely unknown, some hidden force, was lurking out in the mountains that night. But here is the absolutely crucial takeaway regarding all these theories. Even after over 60 years of intense investigation, no single theory on this list has ever convinced everyone. I mean, a localized avalanche might explain the broken ribs, but it doesn't explain the barefoot footprints. Secret military tests might explain the panic, but there's no solid evidence of it at the site. Every single explanation we try to apply just leaves another mystery behind. Nothing fully accounts for the bizarre evidence we just went over. Part 6. The Final Mystery. Today, the location is permanently known as Dyatlov Pass, named in honor of the young leader who never made it back home. It remains this incredibly stark, isolated place where the wind still howls across the snow, and the silence just feels endless. As our source material so hauntingly puts it, the truth may still be buried beneath the snow. When you think about that mountain today, you kind of get the eerie feeling that the landscape knows exactly what happened, but it has stubbornly refused to reveal its dark secret. Which brings us right back to the ultimate question that defines the entire Dyatlov Pass mystery. I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought. What could have possibly frightened 9 experienced, well-equipped hikers so badly that they totally abandoned the safety of their tent in the middle of one of the coldest nights imaginable? It remains one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and definitely keep questioning the unknown.